Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Aim Hrim Shrim Shri Matre Namaha Ganga Bhavani Gayatri Kali Lakshmi Saraswati Rajarajeshwari Bala Shyamala Lalita Ganga Bhavani Gayatri Kali Lakshmi Saraswati Rajarajeshwari Bala Shyamala Lalita Ganga Bhavani Gayatri Kali Lakshmi Saraswati Rajarajeshwari Bala Shyamala Lalita Ganga Bhavani Gayatri Kali Lakshmi Saraswati Rajarajeshwari Bala Shyamala Lalita Ganga Bhavani Gayatri Kali Lakshmi Saraswati Rajarajeshwari Bala Shyamala Lalita Om Shri Guru Mandala Rupinye Namaha. So, good evening everyone. Today the Navratri begins. Since it is about the goddess and we are lucky to have our class on the first night of Navratri. So we will begin the class with listening to a chanting called as Khattamala. Khattamala or Sahasrakshara Vidya it is called. In Shri Vidya Sadhana it is a very powerful chanting. It invokes all the various manifestations of the divine as represented in the Shri Yantra. Okay, that's what this thing is about. So it is not a long one, a short one. So now Isaiah will play the chanting and we can all listen. Maintain a straight pose, conscious deep breathing and a listening attitude, and allow the sounds of the words to get to you. Observe them in your heart. That is the attitude. Okay? Right. You can start playing now. You are ready.
Shri Shri Ain Clean Sau Om Namah Tripura Sundari Hrudaya Devi Shiro Devi Shikha Devi Kavacha Devi Netra Devi Astra Devi Kameshwari Bhagamani Vaiti कुलसुन्दरी नित्ये नीलपताके विजये सर्वमङ्गले आदित्ये परमेश्वर परमेश्वरी नित्रे समयी सृष्टमयी मुक्ति समयी चर्यानाथमयी लोपामुद्रमयी अगस्त्यमयी कालतापसमयी धर्माचार्यमयी भोक्तकेशीश्वरमयी दीपकलानाथमयी विष्णुदेवमयी प्रभाकरदेवमयी तेजोदेवमयी मनोजदेवमयी कल्याणदेवमयी वासुदेवमयी रत्नदेवमयी श्रीरामानन्दमयी अणिमा सिद्धे लघिमा सिद्धे गरिमा सिद्धे महिमा सिद्धे ईशित्व सिद्धे वसित्व सिद्धे प्राकाम्य सिद्धे भुक्ति सिद्धे इच्छा सिद्धे प्राप्ति सिद्धे सर्वकाम सिद्धे ब्राह्मी माहेश्वरी कौमारी वैष्णवी वाराही माहेन्द्री शांते महालक्ष्मी सर्व संशोभिनी सर्व विद्राविणी सर्वाकर्षिणी सर्ववशंकरी सर्वोन्मादिनी सर्वमहाकुशे सर्वखेचरी सर्वबीजे सर्वयोने सर्वत्रिखण्डे त्रैलोक्यमोहनचक्रस्वामिनी प्रकटयोगिनी कामाकर्षिणी बुद्ध्याकर्षिणी अहंकाराकर्षिणी शब्दाकर्षिणी स्पर्शाकर्षिणी रूपाकर्षिणी रसाकर्षिणी गंधाकर्षिणी चित्ताकर्षिणी धैर्याकर्षिणी स्मृत्याकर्षिणी नामाकर्षिणी बीजाकर्षिणी आत्माकर्षिणी अमृताकर्षिणी शरीराकर्षिणी सर्वासा परिपूरक चक्र स्वामिनी गुप्तयोगिनी अनंग कुसुमे अनंग मेखले अनंग मदने अनंग मदनातुरे अनंग रेखे अनंग वेगिनी अनंगाकुशे अनंग मालिनी सर्व संशोभन चक्र स्वामिनी गुप्ततर योगिनी सर्व संशोभिनी सर्व विद्राविणी सर्वाकर्षिणी सर्वाग्रादिनी सर्व सम्मोहिनी सर्वस्तंभिनी सर्वजृंभिणी सर्ववशंकरी सर्वरंजनी सर्वोन्मादिनी सर्वार्थसाधिके सर्वसंपत्तिपूरणी सर्वमंत्रमयी सर्वद्वन्द्वक्षयंकरी सर्वसौभाग्यदायक चक्रस्वामिनी संप्रदाय योगिनी सर्वसिद्धिप्रदे सर्वसंपत्प्रदे सर्वप्रियंकरी सर्वमंगलकारिणी सर्वकामप्रदे सर्वदुःखविमोचनी सर्वमृत्युप्रशमनी सर्वविघ्ननिवारिणी सर्वांगसुन्दरी सर्वसौभाग्यदायिनी सर्वार्थसाधकचक्रस्वामिनी कुलोत्तीर्णयोगिनी सर्वज्ञे सर्वशक्ते सर्वैश्वर्यप्रदायिनी सर्वज्ञानमयी सर्वव्याधिविनाशिनी सर्वाधारस्वरूपे सर्वपापहरे सर्वानन्दमयी सर्वरक्षास्वरूपिणी सर्वेक्षितफलप्रदे सर्वरक्षाकरचक्रस्वामिनी निगर्भयोगिनी वशिनी कामेश्वरी मोदिनी विमले अरुणे शैली सर्वेश्वरी कौलिनी सर्वरोगहर चक्रस्वामिनी रहस्ययोगिनी बाणिनी चाविनी पाशिनी अंकुशिनी महाकामेश्वरी महावज्रेश्वरी महाभगमालिनी सर्वसिद्धिप्रद चक्रस्वामिनी अतिरहस्ययोगिनी श्री श्री महाभट्टारिके सर्वानंदमय चक्रस्वामिनी परापद रहस्य योगिनी त्रिपुरे त्रिपुरेशी त्रिपुरा सिद्धे त्रिपुरांबा महात्रिपुर सुंदरी महामहेश्वरी महामहाराज्ञी महामहाशक्ते महामहागुप्ते महामहाज्ञप्ते महामहानंदे महामहास्कंदे महामहाशये महामहाश्रीचक्रनगर साम्राज्ञी नमस्ते 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 नमः
Om. We will begin the discussion. Since it is the beginning of Navaratri, it is the goddess all around. So I thought we will discuss about the relevance and some technical details and the right approach to about of Tantra Sadhana, Kundalini, all those things. So when we say goddess, what does it mean? Why is it given the feminine connotation? Why not masculine? Or why any gender at all? These things are usual curious questions that some of us might get. Generally, as an experience, when we see the female represents the life force and the ground. There are two ways of looking at it. The Supreme Being is that appears as this world of experiences that we have now. This world of experience, we are experiencing subject, that is we, object, what we experience, and the process of experiencing through the mind, body, prana, etc. This experience has arisen from the absolute existence. This relative existence appears, it is sustained in it, by it, and it resolves back into its cause, the Supreme Being. So we experience two aspects of our life, two things we experience. One is consciousness, another is material object. Right? We are aware of things. So there is something that appears as a thing. And then there is this quality of consciousness. This quality of consciousness seems to be different from what we can understand as a matter. I'm coming from a very simple, normal, experiential idea. I'm not going into matter is energy and then all that. In simple experience, there is stuff and then there is awareness of stuff. So, something cannot come from nothing. So, we generally say for something to come to existence, you need a material. And if it is formed and manifested with some symmetry and intelligence, you also need, if it appears to be manifested in an intelligent way, which presupposes knowledge, then it also has to have an intelligent cause, like the potter and the pot. The clay is the material cause, potter is the intelligent cause. This is the very famous Vedanta example we give. Now, the understanding is that the supreme reality, when it is seen as the cause of this world, we know from the Shastra and from the masters that it is what we call as abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Non-separate, intelligent and material cause. The same thing is intelligent cause also and the material cause also. The supreme being that we call as Satchitananda, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, that is intelligent cause also and the material cause also. There are no two things like the clay and the potter. It is something like flubber. You know that movie called Flubber? It's a self-forming, it looks like a conscious clay. You may wonder how it is. You experience this. We all experience this every day. That which is simultaneously the material and the intelligent cause. Our own mind in the dream, when we experience the dream world, all the objects that you see in the dream world, the dream computer, the car in the dream, the dress you are wearing, your own body in the dream and the body of all the other people in the dream. If you are in the beach, the entire beach, ocean itself. So the entire dream world, if somebody is playing mridangam in the dream, the sound and the vibration and the solidity of that instrument, everything, the material of the dream is your own mind, the power of your own mind that appears as the dream. And the power of your own awareness is aware of the dream. And the knowledge of that is inherent inside your mind is what is shaped into the dream world through the power of consciousness and the power of manifestation. Consciousness that alone appears as the dream world. The mridangam, the instrument that is played in the dream, is consciousness. It's your own consciousness that appears as mridangam. But you don't know that while you are in the dream. In the dream, you are the onlooker. You are watching a concert and you are sitting there, somebody is playing the mridangam and you are watching it. and you are aware of it. There is a knowledge, you are telling, no, he's playing Adi Talam and all that. Now, this is a experience that contains matter and awareness and knowledge. Now, all this has come from your mind. It is your own mind that is the dream world. It is your own mind that is aware of the dream world and interacting with the dream world as you, the dream you. Correct? So, the material cause, when consciousness, when the Supreme Being is presented as the material cause, that which gives this body to this field of experience, to the things, when it is seen as the material cause, the Maya Shakti, it is called as goddess, represented as the feminine. When it is seen as the intelligent cause, it is represented as the Lord of this Maya. Maya tu prakritim vidya mayitu Yogeshvaram comes in Bhagavad Gita. So, generally, the male gives the mind. The brain and the spine comes from the father. That is what we used to say here in Tantra Shastra. But I recently read that is true in according to medicine also. Mainly the brain and the spine comes from the father, and the body usually mostly comes from the mother. Right? That's what they say. So the chromosome from the father, that's what leads to the brain and the spine. Even if you look at the spermatozoa, it looks like a brain and spine. Right? Now, this is what we say. I don't know all the complications in the science, but this is what we say in the yogic tradition. And I seem to find, I happen to find some kind of a parallel in scientific investigation. If it is different, please let me know. It will be interesting to investigate. So, generally we say then the masculine is represented through knowledge and the feminine is representative of material cause. In esoteric, the chaitanyam or the consciousness aspect is considered as masculine, and the energy aspect, the power that appears, makes the consciousness appear as thing. I will come to that. Making the consciousness appear as thing. No? The energy aspect, that it makes the consciousness as though it is vibrating in patterns. That energy aspect is called Shakti or Maya Shakti. Because of which the one light of consciousness appears in so many designs and so many varieties. Because of patterns over patterns and patterns interacting with patterns, patterns within patterns. So because of that, we see this world. We see the Supreme Being appearing as this world. Okay. Now, in Lalita Sahasranama, there is a way of addressing the God as Nitya Jagat Adhishtanaye Namaha. Mithya means that which requires something else for its existence, that which is apparently real or is an illusion. This illusory world, Mithya Jagat Adhisthana, means this illusion needs a domain on which this illusion appears. It's something that appears as something else, that is illusion. It is the water that appears as wave. For a wave to appear in the ocean, you need water. So water is the adhishtanam, wave is the mithya. Okay, wave is an illusion or an appearance, while the water is the substance. Substance and appear. Okay, mithya, jagat, illusory world, adhisthana, the substance in which this world appears. Adhisthana, mithya, jagat, adhisthana. Now, why the energy is considered as the material cause? I'll give you an example. Take a agarbatti, light an agarbatti in a dark. After lighting the agarbatti, switch off all the lights, okay, and rotate the agarbatti in a high speed in some pattern. You will see some circle or a eight shape. You do it really fast, you do it really fast, you can see that. Or if you have some rotating disc or something, you can see that. And you can see these LED lights in automobile wheels, right? When automobiles are going, they have these LED lights. When the automobile is going very fast, you will see one bright circle in it. But when it stops, there is no circle. There are only 2-3 lights that are isolated. But when the fast movement, you see it rotate, right? So similarly, in this agarbatti, when you are rotating, you see a circle. Rotate in a circle. You will not see the dot, the fire dot. You will see a circle. Excuse me, one second. So what is the material of the circle? Is there a circle? Now I'm asking, now listen very carefully, think very carefully. The fire dot of the agarbatti appears as the circle. You may say a fire dot is the material. In a way, yes. But what is the circle? The circle does not exist. Circle is only an appearance. So what is the material of the appearance? What makes the appearance possible? The pattern of movement. The pattern of movement is caused by the energy that you put in the vibration. The circular pattern is sustained by what? The pattern of rotation of that fireball is sustained by you putting energy and rotating it. So it is the energy, the power that appears as the circle. Right? So the consciousness appearing as something else, the duality, that is because of the power acting. So the material for the appearance is the power. And that which appears both as inert and as conscious objects. Now you and I, we are conscious. Our the dress that we are wearing is inert. But if you go deeply into it, go to the Panchabhutas and everything, the elements and everything, ultimately it is the same supreme being that appears as the Panchabhutas and this dress that you wear, but it is actually appearing as inert. It is the consciousness that appears as inert, just like how your own power of your own mind appears as all the things in your dream. Right? So we associate, this is a very deep philosophical discussion. It's one of the topmost concepts in Vedanta. So we will not go deeper into that, just for you to appreciate the concept of why goddess, why the feminine form is given, because in our body, in the experience, we have two things. We have energy and we have awareness. To live life, you need energy and awareness. Energy is considered feminine because the energy aspect is more predominant in women. Consciousness is considered masculine because the conscious aspect and the self-conscious aspect is more predominant in men by design. Right? In men, the consciousness aspect, the knowledge aspect is dominant. You may say that does not mean men are powerless, they don't have energy. Similarly, when I say the energy aspect is dominant in women, that does not mean women are dumb and they are only brute force. It doesn't mean that. Just like how consciousness aspect is dominant in men doesn't mean they don't have energy. Similarly, the energy aspect is dominant in women does not mean that they don't have consciousness. Right? So the both are there in both men and women, but the aspect of prana is more dominant. The way the mind works, the way the mind works according to the quality and the nature of the prana. So the prana moves the mind. and the buddhi regulates the movement. The chitta is moved by prana. That is why when prana is controlled, the mind is controlled in a very superior way compared to controlling the mind using the mind. If you want to control the mind, control the prana. It's a huge discussion in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, and also in many places in Yoga Shastra. Right? Controlling the senses and the mind is achieved in a very superior way when you control prana. It is also discussed in the Yoga Sutra and the Yoga Sutra commentary. When it comes to pranayama, after pranayama, before going to pratyahara, what do you get by pranayama? Superior control of the sense organs, because the prana withdraws the mind, along with that the sense organs. So the prana aspect is always associated with the feminine, and so when we are connecting to the supreme being in the form of prana and energy, that is responsible for creating, sustaining, and dissolving this universe, we call it the goddess. Right? Now, these 10 days are this Navaratri, the 9 nights, Navaratri until Dashami, is meant for celebration of the feminine aspect of this universe. And the women are honored because that manifestation of the divine feminine is more dominant in a female body than in a male. So the young girls are honored, Kumari Puja, Suvasini Puja, all that is there. And you worship the divine being in the form of the feminine. And if we go back in history, and you go in archaeology, even in the Western countries, in the Americas, in any native culture, if you go, the more you dig into the past, you will see worship of goddess. One of the most primordial ways of humans worshipping the divine is in the form of goddess. It's more fundamental to human psyche than to worship an all-powerful male god sitting and dominating. That is a very recent thing that is coming from monotheistic religions, which destroyed all the esoteric. So all the esoteric spirituality in the world is always connected with the gods. And the keepers of the knowledge were the elderly women in the villages, in European, Celtic, Druidic, Wiccan, and all those traditions. The keepers of esoteric knowledge connected with the herbs, with healing, with understanding the subtle universe, all that was in the hands of women. Even today, if you go to Siberia, you have a lot of, you find a Siberian granny. They are fantastic witches in the sense. It has become a derogatory word because of the monotheistic intolerance. But a witch is a very holy word. A witch is somebody who is a wise woman. It's like we have a medicine granny in our villages. The equivalent of that in those cultures is the witch. So if you go to, I had one of my students. Her grandmother is it's like a witch from Siberia, from Siberian town. She used to have a lot of methods of protection of energy, herbal treatments, so many things. She used to have. This wisdom has been passed down generation after generation in the native cultures. You have similar things in Africa. You have in Native Americans, among Native Americans. The feminine has been honored in every native culture because the essence of life is prana. You can have all the knowledge you want. So with all the knowledge, when there is no prana, when there is no energy, that knowledge cannot be put to any decent use, any use at all. The knowledge cannot manifest without prana. That is why in Tantra we say, without Shakti, Shiva is Shava. Shiva represents knowledge. Shiva is dead without Shakti. It is because of Shakti that Shiva is a great creator and all that they will say. It's a way of saying. So we have a very Arthavada or a very dramatic way of putting things in our culture. So now What happens when you worship the goddess? So that is exactly what we need to discuss now. So I have given you a kind of a very broad background of the rationale behind the goddess worship. So having given the basic fundamental rationale behind why it is called as a goddess because of the connection with prana, now let us see what happens to us as a practitioner when we worship the goddess. Like I have told you before, all the divine forms are not just archetypes, they are software. Okay? All the divine forms that are given to us by the rishis for meditation, with the accompanied mantras, the yantras, and the tantra, the methodology of activating and sustaining that divinity and the way of relating to it, all that, all that, it's a software. No? A devata is a software. Now, all the divine forms and all the divine possibilities I will put. A devata is a divine possibility, a divine intelligence, a divine function. A devata is a divine function, which is a possibility that can be lived in each one of us. I have to talk in this language in order to appeal to everybody. Because we need to make sense of the symbolic language. You say the goddess is inside everyone. You have to worship the god. The goddess is within you. You will have to invoke her. She will awaken in you. If I put it like that, a person very deeply rooted in our culture might understand it directly. But those who are not rooted in this culture may not understand this language. So I'm trying to put it in a more neutral language. So Devata is a divine possibility for manifestation in each one of us. Our intelligence can function through the Devata. For example, when you want to go to a parents teachers meeting in your school for your kid, I don't know, many of you may not have kids. I'm an old man. So if a parent wants to go to the school to attend the parent teachers meeting, you go there, the parenthood is invoked, right? You come there as a parent, the sense of being a parent comes up with all its qualities, all its responsibilities and everything. But that sense of I behind the parent, the awareness, that quality of I am, and that I am as a child in front of your own parent, it is the same I am, but the I am is associated with a certain set of bhava. Bhava means a imagination or a superimposition or an adhyasa, a superimposition of certain set of qualities and a role upon yourself that invokes in you certain tendencies and urges and activities. Yeah, that's what happens to you whenever you play a role. Anytime you are becoming somebody, you are not that person. You are not the role. You play a role. Correct? So what happens is your consciousness of I am associates with a software in your mind, from your mind. You are basically identifying with the I am the father or the mother software. I am the daughter or the son software. That invokes and plays with the energies inside your body, the faculties, the hormones. When the mother goes in front of the child, oxytocin comes up automatically. The feelings of motherhood comes up automatically. It is not the same feeling when she goes in front of her husband. It is not the same feeling when she goes in front of her own mother or father, right? Or the teacher, in front of the friends. So you have different hormonal experiences in front with different relationships, right? So that is what we call as prana. Hormone is the physical level. Prana is a more fundamental level where what kind of prana gets invoked where, what kind of knowledge structure, what kind of bhava. The word, Sanskrit word is called bhava. is a non-translatable. You cannot translate this bhava into anything, like how you cannot translate the word dharma. All you can say about bhava is a cognitive becoming. You take birth into a way of being. That is called bhava. Right? So the central point of devata worship, when we invoke a devata, you invoke the devata with the mantra and everything. It is a software, right? So when that software awakens in the system, when you awaken that software in the system, it awakens all its accompanied energies, all the various energies and the vibration patterns and the mood, the set of hormones that are associated with that, and the quality of the mind, the vibration state of the prana, everything is invoked along with a mantra. A mantra is like a software that invokes a being, that invokes a presence, that invokes a divine presence in your body, in your mind, and also in the altar in front of you where you invoke. Now, this art of invoking the divine and sustaining that vibration and then absorbing it back into us. Now, this art of doing that, the science and the art and the knack, the entire knowledge system of doing this is Tantra. Okay. Now, every functionality in this universe is governed by a devata. What is a devata? A divine function, a functional aspect of the divine intelligence. That is the source of all this universe. A functional aspect of the divine intelligence is called as devata. Now, Tantra is nothing but invocation of a devata through a mantra with the help of a yantra and a procedure called Tantra. So this is what is Tantra sadhana is all about. And it is basically playing with energy. So when it's also there for female forms, male forms. So every Devi form is accompanied by her corresponding Bhairava. If you take Kali, she has a certain Bhairava associated. You have Tara, she has a certain Bhairava associated. In the Samahavidya, it comes like that. In different, if you say Kaneshwari, then you have Kaneshwara. So we have a various male, female, divine sets, goes like that. But in Navaratri, we are glorifying the goddess in the sense the worship of goddess is. There are some 3 Navaratris that comes in a year, and this one is the one that comes before winter. The transition from summer to autumn. This before the winter. This time this Navaratri, what we are having right now, Navaratri comes. So every change of season, there is a Navaratri, basically. In the worship of goddess, what happens is it awakens, it gives a certain quality to the prana. Once our prana, the life force inside us, is awakened in association with a set of qualities, it makes certain aspects of our mind more dominant over other aspects. Right? So, if there is for example, there is a Bija mantra called Aim. This Aim Bija mantra is connected to Saraswati. Now, this Bija mantra and the energy of Saraswati represents knowledge. So, the functioning of prana that is responsible for awakening the passion for knowledge, the passion to know more, expansion of our consciousness, and being open to receiving knowledge. All those aspects become highlighted in our mind when we worship Saraswati through the Saraswati mantra. I just gave just a seed syllable, but there are much more into Saraswati mantras, much more into Saraswati worship. It's not that. I'm just giving an example. So in Tantra, what we do, what is fundamentally Tantra is to experience, to awaken an intense form of energy that will bring more intensity, more passion, and more focus organically in a certain domain of life. If you want to live a certain domain of life more passionately, more organically, more intensely, that's what we discussed in the last class. Let us live life intensely and passionately, deeply, so that we are not just whiling away the time here in a superficial way, with compromises, with no realization of something deep. So, in order to live life deeply, and in order to have a deep realization and a connection with the reality of that is the foundation of life. Only then, in order to do that, you need to have intense functioning and integrity and power in your prana. So you need that intensity and integrity in the prana. Right? Intensity comes from not wasting and dissipating your energy through various sensory pleasures and all that. And that mano nigraha, indriya nigraha, bringing back the sense faculties from their temptation towards pleasures and having them under conscious control, and ability to have a mastery over the compulsory tendencies of the mind, and the mind being available for what you want to pursue. That is indriya nigraha and mano nigraha. Right? This brings integrity, and this will also prevent dissipation. So it is like plugging the holes in the bucket. It prevents dissipation, and then that decisiveness, that integrity is there, and intensity is obtained through focus, concentration. Right? Now we can negotiate with various thoughts, do introspection. There are some things in which we have natural passion. We say, oh, today I am in a mood for this, today I am in a mood for that. So this, how does it come, this mood, how does it come? It comes through a subconscious process that we don't understand. Oh, I feel like this, I feel like that, you say, right? So Tantra is something where when we are worshipping in the path of goddess worship, we are learning to manipulate prana in a very conscious way, so that you can awaken and sustain any mood anytime you want. If I need to pursue something, if I am able to invoke and worship and awaken that devata that supports that particular pursuit, very deeply and organically, I will find the mood, I will find the intensity and the passion for that automatically. And also, this is inside, finding the intensity, the mood, the passion for something through the corresponding devata being awakened inside us. This is happening inside us. Apart from that, also in the external world, the things that are conducive for my pursuit will cooperate with me. This is where the magic is. It is like if you're very keen on something, somehow you attract the right people and the situations towards you, they say, right? So that is the same thing. This resonance. So the devata is also, as much as the devata is inside us, devata is also out there in the world around us that regulates the various activities and the functions in the world that are connected to the same domain. Ati devata, we say. So a person who has the grace of goddess Saraswati, or they say, the grace of the planet Jupiter, Brihaspati, the horoscope, will find the right teacher at the right time when they need the right teaching. Somehow they will end up there. Always the teaching, they will end up with the right teacher. That means they have grace of Brihaspati. The Guru's grace is there. That comes from a certain kind of a good karma done in the past life, it comes in that naturally. Now, all of us may not have all the blessings naturally. Some of us have some blessings. Some of us don't have that much of blessing in some areas of life, right? The same person will have blessing in some areas of life and not much of blessing in some other areas of life. So what happens is when you worship the goddess, the blessing, the intensity, the energy, and the forces required to make that area of life work, those forces will start working. With the right goddess worship, it will work. They say, if you cannot solve a problem, go to Ganesha. Solve. Ganesha can't solve, go to Vishnu. If Vishnu cannot solve, go to Shiva. If none of the gods can solve, go to goddess, she will definitely solve. One great Mahatma has said, if nothing works, just go to the goddess, she will take it. So, it is this is the approach which it is. This God's worship is always associated with certain esotericism. Why? Because it is connected with manipulating the unconscious energies. Goddess is direct force energy. So there is not much of analysis and thinking here. In goddess worship, there's not too much analysis and thinking. It is completely energy and feeling. You go with energy, feeling, bhava, the emotion. So we have to tap into the emotional force and align the emotional force with the intelligence contained within the mantra. This is called surrender. When you completely align your emotional force with the energy contained within the deity, within the devata. If you align your emotions and your urges and your ego completely with that divine form that is represented by the mantra, with an accompanying attitude, then that divinity takes over your faculties, it takes over your prana, it takes over your emotion and everything, and it starts guiding you. So Gayatri mantra is basically a mantra for gods. What all the Brahmanas, the Vedic people do, Gayatri. We are invoking three forms of goddess, the Gayatri, Savitri, Saraswati. In the sunrise time, she is Gayatri. In the midday, she is Savitri. In the evening, she is Saraswati. Gayatri, Savitri, Saraswati. These are the three devatas of the so-called famous Gayatri mantra. So it is a goddess worship. Gayatri mantra is a goddess worship. So even in the Vedic way, the fundamental is goddess worship. So for those who are very misled by Western so-called masters of Tantra, all these Western fellows, they don't have any traditional base unless they have the humility to surrender to the tradition here. They usually hijack the knowledge and they misrepresent it and they twist it a lot. That's why the word Tantra has gotten a bad rap now. They say, there were two paths that evolved simultaneously in India, the Vedic, the Orthodox, and the Tantra, the heterodox. There were two streams completely. The Vedic people were very restrictive, the Tantric people were very liberating, inclusive. All this kind of complete nonsense. Vedic worship has as much as Tantra, and Tantric worship has as much Veda in it. So Veda and Tantra are not separate. There are two different approaches, that's all. And in Tantric approach, we are giving more importance to the prana in us. And we are giving more importance to emotion and bhava. It is nothing but upasana. And we are giving more importance to the technique. Right? And we are giving more importance to love, emotion, and channeling the subconscious forces. So, based on how we are approaching this tantra, based on various temperaments of different kinds of people, so we have to include all kinds of people, right? So, to include all kinds of people, there are various approaches in tantra. So, there are three. The voice is not clear. The voice is okay now, but maybe I'm moving the mic. That's why I'm having the mic in my hand. I think I'm moving it because of moving my hand. Okay. Right. Based on the temperament of the person who is practicing mantra, there are three approaches: Dakshina Marga, Vama Marga, Kaula Marga. Right? The one who is able to have a more inward mind, a more capability for meditation and contemplation is more, that person takes the Kaula Marga or Samayachara. And the Dakshinachara is more puritanic in the sense most of our people who are more sattvic, of more sattvic temperament. The methods of worship has more rules and regulations, and the ingredients are all predominantly sattvic. So Vamachara is more tamasic in the sense for those who are having strong pleasure related habits and whose background and their cultural background and their community background, lifestyle, everything, it involves meat, alcohol, and other things. The lifestyle is more tamasic. The natural lifestyle they are used to that is more tamasic. Then they go through Vama Marga. And there are deities like that. That is also there, where we use the Panchamakara sadhana. And then Kaula Marga is complete. Kaula Marga or Samaya Marga is completely yogic. Everything is internal. It's total inner work and very minimal external rituals. Right? And each path has its own rules, regulations. So the more pleasure related techniques are involved, like no worshipping with meat, alcohol, and offering of sexual pleasure to the deity. All these things are there. Panchamakara it is called. So, if more pleasure is involved in the tantric, if you are going to tap into the pleasure circuits and transform them, there are more rules. In the sense, there are more restrictive rules, and then there is a lot of control. And also, they categorize the practitioner into three levels: Pashu, Veera, and Divya. Pashu means animalistic person who is naturally having a tendency to come under the influence of pleasure. Those who are totally driven by instinct, like animal, very animalistic tendencies, a lot of instinctive person, and who is doesn't have that much mastery over pleasure and all that. So not that much of self-control. Is a very instinctive person, impulsive person. So for them, the rules are very high level of rules. A lot of controls and a lot of restrictions are there in the application of the technique. Veera is the one who is more rajasic, and that person is more ego-driven, principle-driven, and rajasic, but also has a high level of control. So for them, the rules are a little less, but the predominance is given on application of more intensity and force in the practice. Severity and the intensity is higher. And for a Divya is a more sattvic person. For them, there is the highest level of freedom to do what they want because their mind is, they will not do. They will do only what is necessary and they will not lose themselves in experiences. Right? The Pashu person is more tamasic. So his freedom to have experiences is highly controlled. Veera person is more rajasic, so he is encouraged to control the process over experience. And the Divya person is given complete freedom to engage with any kind of experiences, so that he is more focused on knowledge and not affection. More focused on knowledge and understanding and the oneness than having experiences because he's not interested in. superficial experiences because his mind is already sattvic, devoted to knowledge. So like that we have 3 levels of sadhaka or the disciple of tantra, which is Pashu, Veera and Divya, and 3 types of tantra, which is commonly mentioned as left hand, right hand, and internal. Right? Vama Marga, Dakshina Marga, and Samaya Marga or Kaulam. Right? So this is about tantra, and generally the ferocious forms of goddess like Kali, etc. They give you more renunciation and wisdom. They take you more toward wisdom and renunciation. And the pleasant forms of the goddess, the Dasamaha Vidya, we say the 10 forms of goddess, they're classified into Sundari Vidya and Kalika Vidya. Kalika, the ferocious forms, and Sundari Vidya, the beautiful, harmonious, and pleasant forms. So the pleasant forms give you generally a very comfortable life and they take you gently towards knowledge. The ferocious forms, they pluck you out of life and they put you in wisdom. So that is about the ferocious. So the approach of Tantra is basically to embrace your subconscious. If I want to give a summary to the whole thing, the approach of Tantra is to tap into your subconscious tendencies and forces and to channel them with the help of mantra and the procedures in a direction that is useful for our spiritual. Tapping into the subconscious forces, the various desires, the various urges, the tendencies, the habit pattern, and all that. Embracing them and channeling them in the right direction towards spiritual growth with the help of certain divine softwares and certain divine energies, which is guided personally by a person, a guru, who knows how to go about the whole. So now in this context, we have Kundalini. The Kundalini is nothing but another word for prana. When prana is completely wound up with the various subconscious knots, we say cognitive knots, it is called Kundalini. And when all the cognitive knots are open, the prana becomes free flowing and straight. They say the snake becomes a stick. That analogy is there in the Western theology. The snake becoming a stick. They say that is about Kundalini. But here we have the prana danda prayoga. The prana becomes straight like a stick. The sense that it is like a coiled serpent, it becomes straight like a stick. It awakens and becomes straight. It is a certain symbolic way of telling about the energy that is stuck up in so many cognitive knots. When all the knots are cleared, the energy is liberated and it is free. And all the higher faculties in us can awaken and function freely without any restriction, where you become a totally, completely spiritually self-actualized person. So that is what the whole Kundalini is about. Maybe we can discuss a little more about it in class. So if you have certain questions connected to these topics, you can note them down as and when they come, and you write the questions in the next class. We will address those questions. I have given you an overall overview of this whole thing. So let us benefit from these 9-10 days to tap into the grace of the goddess, to guide our lives towards more spiritually charged passion and intensity for knowledge, wisdom, and liberation. So with this we will complete. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Sishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tatsat. Thank you.